Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're heading way up the Nile to Upper Egypt to explore one of the most iconic sites anywhere in the world, the temples of Abu Simbel.
It's an incredible place, and our mission today really is twofold. We want to delve into the original creation by Ramesses II back in the 13th century BC, just the sheer audacity of it.
Yeah, the scale is hard to comprehend.
Exactly. But then, fast forward 3,000 years, and there's the second monumental story. The international effort in the 1960s to save these very temples from being lost forever. An engineering feat almost as staggering as the first.
When you see images of Abu Simbel, especially that great temple facade, it just hits you.
Yeah.
This wasn't subtle.
No, not at all. It's pure power projection. You've got two massive temples carved straight out of the rock face, right on the edge of Nubia.
And this was during the 19th dynasty, you said, Ramesses II's time.
That's right. Construction started around 1264 BC and took about 20 years. And the location was key. Nubia was Egypt's gateway to gold and other resources. This was about stamping Egyptian presence, Egyptian might right there.
A giant "We Are Here" sign written in stone. So the Great Temple, dedicated to the main state gods Amunon, Ra-Harakti, Ta. But really it's about Ramesses himself, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's Ramesses dedicating a temple to the gods and to the deified version of himself. He's basically putting himself on par with the gods.
And those statues outside make that point pretty clear.
Yeah, don't they just?
Right.
4 colossal seated figures of Ramesses. Each one is 20 meters tall. That's what, 66 feet?
66 feet. Just sitting there, staring out over the landscape. Imagine sailing up the Nile from Nubia and seeing that.
Exactly. It was meant to intimidate, to impress.
Yeah.
Pure propaganda in stone.
And there's a second, smaller temple, too.
Yes, the small temple. Dedicated to his favorite wife, Queen Nefertari, and also to the goddess Hathor. It forms this unique pairing, political power, religious authority, and even a bit of royal family commemoration.
It sounds so permanent, so monumental. But like so many ancient wonders, they didn't stay in the spotlight forever, did they?
No, far from it. They eventually fell out of use, probably as power dynamics shifted. And the desert, well, the desert does what it does.
Sand. Lots of sand.
Tons of it. By the 6th century BC, so maybe 600 years after they were finished, the Great Temple was already significantly buried. A huge dune had piled up against it.
How much was visible?
Not much. Reports suggest the sand reached right up to the knees of those giant statues. You'd only see the very top part of the facade, the heads and shoulders poking out, basically lost to the world.
Wow. So for nearly 2 millennia, it's just hidden that who finds it? How does it reappear?
Right. Jump forward to the early 19th century. The credit for the modern rediscovery goes to a Swiss explorer, Johann Ludwig Burckhardt.
Burckhardt. Okay.
In March 1813, he's traveling in the area, probably following rumors or ancient accounts. He spots the small temple, which was less buried, and crucially, the very top of the Great Temple's facade sticking out of the sand.
So he knew something big was there.
He knew something potentially massive was there. He documented it, but he couldn't actually get inside the main temple. The entrance was totally blocked by sand.
Okay, so the stage is set. Someone needs to dig it out.
And that someone was the rather famous Italian adventurer and proto-archaeologist Giovanni Belzoni.
Ah, Belzoni. He pops up everywhere in early Egyptology.
He does. He heard about Burckhardt's find, got some backing actually from the British consul Henry Salt, and arrived in June 1817 determined to get inside.
And it wasn't easy, I imagine.
Not at all. Picture this. June, July, in the Nubian desert. Intense heat. They spent 22 days relentlessly clearing sand, trying to find and unblock the original entrance. Just back-breaking work.
But they did it.
They did. On August 1st, 1817, they finally broke through. And the description of that moment is amazing.
What was it like?
Belzoni and his team described the air that rushed out as a hot and moist vapor, not unlike that of a Turkish bath. Think about that air sealed inside for maybe 2,000 years, hitting them with that thick, humid heat. Ugh. Incredible, a direct sensory link to the past. But the impact of this discovery goes way beyond just finding another temple, right? This had huge implications.
Oh, absolutely massive. This is where Abu Simbel plays a pivotal role in cracking the code of Egyptian hieroglyphs.
How so?
Well, soon after Belzoni got in, a French draftsman named Louis-Maurice Adolphe Linot de Belfons went in to sketch the reliefs and inscriptions.
Okay. Detailed drawings.
Very detailed. And crucially, he copied the royal names written inside oval shapes, the cartouches. He sent these drawings back to France, to Jean-François Champollion.
Champollion, the man who deciphered hieroglyphs.
The very same. And apparently it was seeing the cartouche for Ramphis from Abu Simbel that sparked the big insight.
So it wasn't some grand Rosetta Stone moment in isolation. These drawings were key.
They were absolutely critical. Champollion had been working on it for years, but this specific evidence helped him realize in 1822 that hieroglyphs weren't just symbolic pictures. It was a complex system. Some signs were symbols, some represented sounds like letters. Phonetic. Wow. So Abu Simbel didn't just reveal itself. It helped reveal the voice of ancient Egypt.
Precisely. Those drawings were the key that unlocked millennia of history. It's quite something.
And even beyond the language, Abu Simbel became important for, well, visual records too, didn't it? Photography was just starting to become a thing.
Yeah, that's another interesting footnote. Maxime du Camp, a French writer and photographer, took some of the earliest photographs there in 1850.
First photos?
Among the very first photos of the site, yes. And the book he published later, Egypt, Nubia, Palestine, et Syrie, was actually the first French book ever printed with photographic illustrations. So Abu Simbel is tied into the history of photography too.
Amazing. Okay, let's go back inside the Great Temple. You mentioned the 4 huge statues outside, but one of them looks broken.
Yes, that's right. The second statue from the left, as you face the temple, its head and upper torso are missing from the body. They lie on the ground in front of it.
What happened there?
An ancient earthquake, most likely. It caused that massive upper section to break off and fall. But what's really interesting is the decision made during the relocation project in the 1960s.
They didn't fix it.
No, they very deliberately chose not to restore it. They moved the fallen pieces along with the rest of the statue and reassembled them exactly as they were found broken.
Why?
It was a conscious choice, I think, to preserve the history of the monument, including the damage it had suffered over time. It acknowledges the passage of centuries, the forces of nature. It's a kind of archaeological honesty.
That's fascinating. So you go past these giant figures, including the broken one, and into the temple itself.
Yeah.
What's the first main space like?
You enter the Great Hypostyle Hall. Hypostyle just means a roof supported by columns. And these are huge columns, shaped like pillars, actually Osiride pillars, figures of Ramesses as the god Osiris.
And the walls, what do they show?
They shout Ramesses' military achievements. The dominant theme is the Battle of Kadesh, fought against the Hittite Empire.
Ah, yes, the battle Ramesses claimed as a massive victory, even though historians now think it was more of a score draw.
Exactly. But on these walls, there's no ambiguity. You see Ramesses, larger than life, riding his chariots, firing arrows, leading the charge, smiting his enemies. It's pure royal propaganda, cementing his image as the invincible warrior pharaoh.
Okay, so military might in the hall, but the real magic, the thing people talk about most with Abu Simbel, is deeper inside, isn't it? The solar alignment.
Yes, this is truly astonishing. You go deeper and deeper into the temple through successive halls, all the way to the innermost room, the sanctuary. It's about 63 meters, maybe 200 feet from the entrance, carved into the mountain.
And it's all about the sun.
It's all about the sun. Twice a year, the entire axis of the temple was precisely calculated so that on 2 specific dates, around October 22nd and February 22nd, the first rays of the rising sun pierce through the entrance, travel the entire length of the temple.
63 meters.
And illuminate the statues sitting against the back wall of that final sanctuary.
Wow. Which statues are they?
There are 4 seated figures there. The sunlight hits 3 of them. Ra-Harakti, a sun god, fittingly, the deified Ramesses II himself, and Amun-Ra, another major state god.
So, light on the sun god, the king, and the king of the gods. Makes sense. But you said 4 statues. Who's the 4th?
The 4th figure is Ta.
Ta. God of craftsmen, creation, but also connected to the underworld, right?
Exactly. And here's the incredible part. The sunlight never touches the statue of Ta. It falls perfectly on the other 3, but leaves Ta always in shadow year after year, century after century.
That can't be accidental.
Absolutely not. It's deliberate, sophisticated, astronomical, and religious planning, keeping the god associated with darkness in the dark. It's mind-blowing, really. Amelia Edwards, the writer and traveler, was one of the first modern observers to really document this phenomenon back in 1874.
An ancient astronomical clock built inside a mountain. Just incredible. Now, near the Great Temple is the small temple for Nefertari. How does that compare? Is it just a smaller version?
Not quite. It's smaller, yes, but it has its own very unique features, dedicated to Hathor and Queen Nefertari. And the facade is remarkable in a different way.
How so?
Well, usually, in Egyptian art, the queen is depicted much smaller than the pharaoh, often only reaching his knee height. It shows the hierarchy.
Right, standard practice.
But on the facade of the small temple at Abu Simbel, you have standing statues of Ramesses flanking the entrance and standing statues of Nefertari also flanking the entrance. And they are virtually the same size. Both are just over 10 meters, about 33 feet tall.
Equal size. That's really unusual, isn't it?
Extremely unusual. It's a huge statement about the status and importance Ramesses gave to Nefertari, his great royal wife. It suggests a level of partnership, or at least esteem, that you rarely see represented so monumentally.
So we have these two incredible structures packed with meaning, art, astronomy. Then comes the 20th century and a massive threat.
A truly existential threat. The plan to build the Aswan High Dam further down the Nile. A necessary project for Egypt's development, for power generation and water control.
But with a huge side effect for Nubia's monuments.
A catastrophic one. The dam would create Lake Nasser, one of the world's largest artificial lakes. And the predicted water level behind the dam meant Abu Simbel would be completely submerged. Gone.
Not just submerged, but destroyed, right, because of the type of rock.
Exactly. The temples are carved from sandstone, which is porous, constant immersion under dozens of meters of water under pressure. It would saturate the rock, weaken it, and the structures would eventually just crumble and dissolve. It wasn't a matter of if, but when.
So the world faces losing this masterpiece. What happens next? There must have been some wild ideas floated.
Oh, definitely. This was the space age. Anything seemed possible. One early, quite dramatic proposal was to leave the temples where they were, but build a massive concrete dam around them, under the water of Lake Nasser.
Like a giant fish tank.
Sort of, with observation galleries for visitors. But the engineers realized the problem. Even with the dam, the water pressure from the surrounding lake would seep through the ground and up into the porous sandstone. The temples would still get waterlogged and eventually collapse. So that was out.
Okay, what else? I heard something about lifting them.
Yes, that was another seriously considered plan. Imagine this. Encasing the entire Great Temple, all 250,000 tons of it, in a giant concrete box, and then somehow lifting the whole thing vertically using an enormous hydraulic jack.
Just lifting the whole mountain chunk.
Basically, yes. Push it straight up above the new water level. The estimated cost was huge, around $62 million back then, and the risks. Well, the risk of the whole thing cracking or collapsing during the lift was just deemed too high, and it would take too long. Lake Nasser was rising.
Mind-boggling concepts. So the plan they actually went with must have seemed almost as crazy at first.
It probably did. The winning proposal came from a consortium led by Swedish engineers, VBB. Their idea was, in essence, the most logical, but also incredibly complex. Carefully cut the temples into large blocks, move the blocks to higher ground, and then reassemble them exactly.
Like the world's biggest, most precious Lego set?
Kinda, yeah, but infinitely more delicate. This required a massive international effort spearheaded by UNESCO. They launched a campaign to raise the funds.
How much did it cost in the end?
The final cost was around $40 million, which is roughly $300 million today. A huge sum. About half was funded by Egypt, and the other half came from donations from nearly 50 countries around the world, a truly global rescue mission.
Okay, they have the money, they have the plan. What's the first step on the ground?
First, they had to protect the site from the rising Nile while they worked. So they built a massive temporary cofferdam, a watertight enclosure in front of the temples. It was huge, 82 feet high, just to hold the water back during the initial, most critical phase.
Then came the cutting. That sounds terrifying.
It must have been incredibly nerve-wracking. The goal was precision. They ended up cutting the two temples into 1,036 main blocks, some weighing up to 30 tons.
How do you cut 3,000-year-old sandstone that precisely without shattering it?
Very, very carefully. They brought in specialist stone cutters from Italy, Marmesti, who were used to working with delicate marble. They didn't use jackhammers or anything brutal like that.
Well, Ben.
Primarily hand saws, long manual saws. And before making a cut, they often injected the sandstone with synthetic resins like epoxy to strengthen it and prevent it from crumbling along the cut line.
Wow, hand saws. And how wide were the cuts supposed to be?
The target was incredibly fine, just 6.4 millimeters, about a quarter of an inch wide. Think about that. You're sawing through ancient rock, trying to keep the cut that thin to minimize damage and make reassembly seamless.
The level of skill involved.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Absolutely. Once a block was cut, it was carefully numbered, cataloged, lifted by crane, transported about 200 meters inland, and about 65 meters higher up the plateau.
So higher and further back from the original shoreline.
Exactly. Safe from the rising lake. Then came the reassembly, putting it all back together.
Did it work? Did it fit?
Remarkably well. The process was meticulous. The small temple was reassembled first, finished by the end of 1966. The Great Temple followed just about 6 weeks later. An incredible pace.
But just stacking the blocks wouldn't be enough, right? They needed support.
Right. They couldn't just leave the reassembled temples exposed. The original temples gained their stability from being carved into the mountain. So behind the reassembled facades and halls, the engineers built huge, hidden, reinforced concrete domes.
Domes, like internally.
Yes, massive dome structures that provide the structural support from behind and overhead, essentially taking the place of the original mountain rock.
And then they covered these domes up.
Completely. They piled hundreds of thousands of tons of rock and sand over the domes to recreate the original look of the hillside, the original setting. So from the outside, it looks like the temples are still carved into a natural cliff face.
That's brilliant, but the ultimate test must have been the solar alignment. Did that survive the move?
That was the nail-biting moment. They specifically checked it. On February 22nd, 1966, after the main structure was reassembled, but before the dome was fully covered, they watched. And the sunbeam came through right on schedule, traveled the 63 meters, and lit up Ra-Harakti, Ramesses, and Amun-Ra, leaving Ta in the shadow. They had done it. They had preserved the ancient magic.
That's just incredible. What an achievement.
It really was. The whole project was officially completed in 1968. It's considered one of the greatest feats of archaeological engineering ever. And it had a lasting legacy, too. This whole campaign directly led to the creation of the UNESCO World Heritage List, establishing a framework for protecting globally important sites.
So Abu Simbel is not just a monument. It's the reason we have World Heritage Sites.
In many ways, yes. It set the precedent for international cooperation and cultural preservation.
So reflecting on all this, we have these two almost unbelievable stories wrapped up in one place. Ramesses II's ancient vision of eternal power and godhood.
And the 20th century's determination to preserve that vision, using incredibly sophisticated, modern engineering, moving over 1,000 blocks piece by piece, keeping that solar alignment intact.
It shows what can be done, doesn't it? Both in ancient times and, well, relatively recently.
Absolutely. Human ingenuity tackling seemingly impossible challenges, millennia apart.
As a final thought for you, our listeners, consider this little detail, often overlooked.
Yeah.
Back in 1893, years before the rescue, some British royal engineers were working to stabilize the cliff face above the Great Temple. And they found something.
What was it?
A small, protected grave niche. Inside were the remains of Major Benjamin Tidswell, an officer in the Royal Dragoons. He died of dysentery there in 1885, while serving with the British forces during the Nile expedition.
A British soldier buried right there.
Yes, his comrades buried him in that niche high up on the sacred cliff. During the 1960s relocation, the engineers carefully moved his grave too, slightly aside from the main temple area, and gave it a proper granite marker. It's still there. So amidst these colossal monuments built for eternity, dedicated to pharaohs and gods, you have this small, quiet reminder of another human presence, another layer of history. A Victorian soldier finding his final resting place on Ramesses' holy mountain. It just underscores, I think, how this place has drawn people in, demanded effort, and held on to its significance across more than 3,000 years. From pharaohs to soldiers to engineers, a constant human connection to this spot on the Nile.